We're really excited today that some of our family and cast have traveled here to be with us during Q&A. So I'd like to introduce Leah's dad and Sonia's oldest son, Maury Warshawski, and her oldest daughter, Regina Court. I don't think they really knew what they were getting into when they agreed to do those interviews, but here we are.
Well, thank you all for being here. This is such a moving and complex portrait of Sonia. And as you can imagine, at the Jewish Film Festival, we get a lot of films about Holocaust survivors. And this one was so unique and really stood out for us. And I'm not talking about just this year, but over a period of years. And one thing that stood out so much was how skillful the filmmaking is.
Thank you
the
very
direction
much.
From both of you.
Thank you.
That means so much. Thank you.
And Todd, the cinematography, motion graphics, the editing, just what an incredible job. I just want to really
thank you so much, Jay.
Commend you on that. I was wondering if I could start out by just asking for an update on Sonia and how she's doing and what she's up to.
Well, we couldn't get Sonia here in time today before she had to go back to work tomorrow. That's how she's doing. The lady never stops. She's doing fantastic. She's been to a number of screenings. She loves what the film is doing, and she loves the way audiences are reacting to the film. She is still going. She's doing great. And she's still driving that car, and she just had, she actually just had part of it repainted because it was fading in different places, so.
Amazing. Still same steering wheel?
Yes, it's a little more faded, but it is the same. I think there's more leopard print in the car now than there was when we filmed. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering if you learned something making this film about Sonia that you didn't already know, or what you learned about her in the making of the film.
Well, I think we all learned different things about her during the making of the film. And it was, for me, it was the most time that I'd ever spent with Sonia growing up, because we never lived in the same city together when I was growing up. And so the last 6 years, we've really had kind of a window into her life that we never had before. I spent more time with her actually doing things that you'd typically do with a grandmother. And that's been an interesting process for many reasons, some of which are in this film, but also just kind of getting to know her daily activities and what she does, and then being able to see the impact that she has on people, which is not something that I knew before we started making the film. And it was the impetus for us to make the film, to be honest, was when we saw her out in the world, speaking with teens, speaking with inmates, having more of an impact on other people that weren't in our family, people that we didn't know. And we felt that that was a bigger story to tell, and that that would be able to reach more people. And so we're grateful that she's always wanted to be a diva and just loved being on camera. Maybe a little too much, because we had so much footage we couldn't barely edit it down. But I learned that, yes, she's always wanted to be a movie star and does quite well in that role. So.
How does she feel about the film when she screened it with audiences?
Yeah, we've been fortunate enough to screen the film with her. She was just in Mendocino with us, and we're trying to raise money right now to get the film in theaters, for which she will be coming, we hope, to LA and New York premieres, and potentially San Francisco as well. She didn't realize that we were making a movie that was not just about her. And when she figured that out recently, you know, she told us the first time that we showed her the full rough cut, she said, I understand now that this is bigger than me, and that this film will reach more people and have a bigger impact than I can by myself. And that was what we needed to hear. That is the goal of everything that we're doing. It's not, yes, Sonia's an engaging character. She draws you in. She is the main character of this movie, but she's not the only person in the film, and she's not, the film's not just about Sonia. There's more themes. It's become more universal and relatable, and she didn't see that part as we were making it. Or maybe she saw it but didn't realize it or hear what we were saying. So.
Well, speaking of more people in the film, Regina, Maury, you have one of the most moving scenes in the film when you're reading the poem and you just can't continue. And
they promised me it wouldn't be in the film, by the way.
yeah.
Right after they shot, they said, "Don't worry, Dad, it won't be in the film."
Well, as a viewer, I'm really glad it is in the film because it's so powerful and it speaks volumes what happens with you. And I'm wondering, for both of you, seeing the film now, what is your experience seeing it now, and is it a lot different than what you had imagined the film would be?
Yes, actually, I did not want to be interviewed. I don't think my sister or my brother were interested in being in the movie. And I mean, I really felt pressured to do the interviews. However, after we saw the finished product and how it's affected people, because really, honestly, I thought anything I would have to say, there's no way it could be important compared to what happened to my mother. But what's been interesting is that so many people seem to relate to us because of how her trauma affected us, and all families have problems, or there's something going on in your life. So it's been extremely rewarding, which I really wasn't anticipating. And these guys get all the credit.
Well, it's kind of amazing because each generation is now carrying the torch in some form. You've made the film, you're speaking,
Yes.
and you're in the film, both of you. So it's just, I think it's just something that's important, and it's going to have to go on and on. So getting back to the film for a second, one of the most moving scenes for me also was the prison scenes and how the prisoners related to Sonia. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that.
So that scene was really important for us as well, because it was one of the first times I think that you guys had been to the prison, and it was, you know, we have Sue Ellen Freed to thank for that. And what happened there was what you saw in the film, and that is that it was one of the first times Todd and I had ever seen Sonia actually moved in an authentic way. And because she's usually going out and giving and giving and giving, and she tells her story to people who, I mean, it's an incredible story if you don't know about the Holocaust, or maybe you don't have any survivors in your family. And so people hear her, but they don't understand her, and they can't relate to her. And the prisoners, I think she felt, you know, they were a group of people who could relate. And instantly, and Brian says it in the film, he says, you know, it takes someone who's been through something to understand someone who's going through something. And that is exactly what happened. And I know Sonia felt that they really understood her and got her, and they felt the same about her. And so we went back recently to show the film to some of the inmates who are still there in Lansing, and recorded audio from that. We'll be making a little piece from that. But they were just really moved still. You know, some of them have just turned their lives around after that one day. They're still thinking about Sonia. And so it's been quite amazing, and if we, you know, have our wish, then we'll be able to get the film into more prisons and facilities, you know, maybe juvenile detention facilities, which I know you've spoke at before. But I think those places are really powerful for Sonia as well, because she gets something back instead of just giving, she gets something back, and she actually feels understood, which is probably rare for her.
Yeah. When I introduced the film earlier, I said a complex portrait. And I think one of the things I really appreciate about this film is that you weren't afraid to show the warts and all and the difficulties of being children of survivors, and that's all in there instead of it just being, a feel-good piece about your grandma. And so I commend you on that. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the decision behind keeping your dad crying and things like that.
Well, that wasn't my decision either, by the way. So I didn't want to be in the movie. None of us did. Thankfully, we have a really big team, mostly in Seattle, who I got vetoed. I tried to take myself out of it many, many times, and that didn't work out in the end. But we did from day one, we agreed that we did not want to make a typical Holocaust movie. We wanted to do something that was different. We wanted it to be funny and engaging, and we wanted to reach a much younger audience than most films about the Holocaust do. And so we kind of stuck to our instincts and rode that line. And I think we were talking earlier that the film wasn't meant to be a feature. It was only supposed to be a short film about Sonia's shop. And then as soon as she got the eviction notice, that changed the trajectory of the film, because now we had a story arc. We had a beginning, middle, and some kind of end. Whatever happened, we knew Sonia was going to get through it. We didn't know what was going to happen, but we knew something good would happen. So that turned it into a feature. And then all of the layers we did many interviews that aren't in the film that are wonderful as well. But what we found is that everybody is dealing with this kind of trauma that Sonia has passed on in very different ways. And that element of the film is probably one that we're most proud and honored to share, because it is the element that most people are relating to. And people come up afterwards and, I know you'll want to give us a hug, which is a different reaction after a movie, but people just relate to your own lives, your own families, whether you're Jewish or not Jewish. And that was something we didn't intend from the beginning, but it is something that we're really proud of now.
And did you talk about the animation and the style of the animation and how you made that decision?
Yeah, that's another thing that we really wanted to set the film apart from other films on this subject. From the beginning, we wanted to do something different. We wanted to not go the typical archival footage route and reach perhaps a younger audience in a different way. We felt also that Sonia is such a vivid storyteller. You almost don't need a picture the way she describes some things, but to have her horrible experiences and kind of silly, funny experiences seen and reenacted in a way that are her childhood memories would be more powerful than seeing a disconnected history image. It's her history and her storytelling. And we're really fortunate to work with really talented illustrator in Kansas City, Rachel Ignatowski, who's at Comic-Con right now selling her book, which has been on the New York Times bestseller list for 30, 40 weeks now, and an animator in Seattle. And then combining that with Chris Barnett at Skywalker Sound, they invited us up there to do the sound design for that, which really, I think, brings you into her place as a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old.
And also, I thought the music was really well done, well chosen, the compositions.
Yeah, thank you. I have the great fortune of working with the best producer I know, who puts together an incredible team of artists. And we found Brad Lena doing a podcast for our previous film. He was a sound engineer and literally chased us down in the parking lot after we had pitched this film and said, I have to work on this film. And he just would not leave us alone. And we're so lucky that he didn't. He composed every second of score in this film, and there's 32 different cuts. And we're working on a soundtrack with him right now that we're going to release in conjunction with our theatrical release this fall. It's really good. We work with really talented musicians in Seattle. It's a great music city, and so some of those strings and horns are live instruments that Brad wrangled for us. And the song "Oh," we just cut a music video with them that will be part of our theatrical release this fall. Yeah, they're so talented. I can't say enough about them. It's so fun to work with talented musicians like Brad and Taylor.
Wow. Well, I think let's open it up to the audience and see. Please ask questions. We only have time for one question, so I'm sorry.
Make it good.
God, nothing like pressure. Thank you for an incredibly moving film. I've seen a lot of Holocaust films, and yours is absolutely amazing. My question is, did Sonia go back to other prisons? Has she gone back to that prison? I'm just very interested in the program and how far it spread. Thank you.
Yes, the part that you saw was for the that was medium security, right? And then my mother and I went back sometime later for minimum security, and then at some point we went to the maximum security. A couple months ago, we visited a women's prison in Topeka, and we're going back at the end of this month for the maximum security in Topeka. And I must tell you that when we spoke, thank you, when we spoke to the women's facility in Topeka, I mean, we had about 200 women who were in the audience, and they were so engaged and so fascinated by my mother's story. It was just incredible. So obviously she is making a difference, and what's so beautiful about it is that she gives people, like people who are in prison and God only knows what they had been through, she gives them so much hope because of her story and what happened to her and how she was able to go on with her life.
Just one last thing. You were going to talk a little bit about distribution.
Thanks, Jay. Yes, so we are trying to get this film. We're here because this is our San Francisco premiere for the film, and we have one more week left in our crowdfunding campaign to try and get this film eligible for an Academy Award this year and into theaters in LA and New York. So if you would like to support that effort, we haven't slept since November. We premiered this film the day after the election, and so for a lot of reasons you can understand why we haven't been sleeping, but we feel very strong that the film needs to be seen in a theater with an audience like yourself. And if you feel that way, I hope that you'll support our effort. We literally are 75% of the way to our goal, and we have 8 days left to reach it, or we won't get any of the funds. So I have postcards. You can go to our website. It's bigsonia.com. Very easy to remember. It's the name of our film. I also have postcards that I'm happy to give you with that site. And by my calculations, if everybody in this room right now pledged to our campaign, whatever you can, we would be past our goal in the next 24 hours. So thank you for being here, and we will stay. We'll be here as long as you want to talk to us. And again, just thank you for spending time with us today, and tell your friends about this film if you liked it, and pledge to our campaign, and maybe we'll see you back in San Francisco. So thank you.
Thank you so much.